Hey Spikes, Miss McKee here. Today we are going to be looking at some argumentative text, and we're also going to be looking at short constructed responses. So you should be on the side of the paper that looks like this. The first thing I want you to do is put your RLA teacher's name. So I'm going to put Mrs. Holland has greatly prepared, and then you put your first and last name. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at these two prompts, these two types of responses that are in these two boxes. And what I want you to do with your class is you're going to have a discussion about what you notice about each one, and you're going to try to make a guess as to what type of writing you're supposed to do when you see a prompt that looks like this on the STAR test. So if you're running the Spike time, can you please pause the video and have a conversation about what you notice in these two prompts? Okay, some of the things that you might have talked about for this prompt right here is that this box is a lot smaller than the other one. The prompt itself is really short, okay? And it has a question, it has a prompt for you right here. What is the author's main message in the selection? It might be different on your STAR test. And then it says, support your answer with evidence from the selection. If it's short like that, that's because it's a short constructed response. So you can write that in the line below the box. And we know that when we plan a short constructed response, it's 3 simple sentences: answer, cite, and explain. And we're going to go into greater depth with that in a few minutes. The other box, however, has a lot of information. This box is actually bigger, and I didn't snip all of it, but it does go farther and farther. So visually, when you're on the test, you'll see that you're expected to write more than you would be for a short constructed response. Some other things that we like to show our students are this pencil. It says the word essay. It says write your essay in the box below. Then it gives you something to read, okay, and the prompt. And then it says write a well-organized argumentative essay. If it says that, it's an ECR, and it might not say argumentative, it might say informational, it might say something else, but if it says the word essay, that is an extended, constructed response. Some other things that you're going to notice that we show our kids are this right here, these dots. These are just reminders for all of the things that your teacher has already taught you about writing a claim, or it could say a thesis. If you see those words, it's an ECR. It's going to tell you to organize, develop your ideas, use text evidence, and then just grammatical things such as spelling, capitalization, puncturing, grammar, okay? And then here is just telling you how to manage your time so that you can get it all done in time. But that's an extended constructed response. And you do know, all of you know, that when you plan it out, it can look something like this, okay? And within your ECR, you're going to have 2 SCRs, which are your body paragraphs. You also have your thesis in the introduction, and then you restate your thesis. Okay? Teachers, you can pause the video so that the kids can finish filling that in, which they should know how to do it already, but go ahead and pause it if you need to. Okay, when I was making this worksheet, these boxes made me think of a robot, okay? So if you were to turn this into a robot, it's a good way for you to remember that there's 2 types of writing and that one is a lot smaller than the other. So the SCR would be like the head of the robot, right? So you can draw like a little thing on top of it, okay, to remember, little beeping sonar things that robots have, right? And then this would be the body, so it would have some kind of arms coming off of it. You can draw arms. You can make yours way more creative than me. I'm thinking of a bunch of students that I have who are such good artists. So you could draw like little robot hands to remember it, okay? Maybe some robot feet. I don't know, I'm interested to see what your robots look like. Okay? So this is the head of the robot up here. And he's going to be very happy when you remember that the biggest writing is the ECR, and that's his body. And you can remember that because it has body paragraphs. Okay, when you're done designing your little robot, you can flip it over and we're going to look at a piece of argumentative text. And we're going to be looking at the head of the robot today, which is the SCR. Okay? All right, flip it over. Here is a piece of argumentative text. So let's read it together. It says, allowing students to use cell phones in class can significantly enhance our learning experience. With access to educational apps, online research, and instant communication with teachers, we can engage more effectively with the material. For instance, during group projects, we can quickly look up information or use our phones to collaborate in real time, making our learning more interactive and productive. Furthermore, learning to use technology responsibly now prepares, I did this every time I read it. Furthermore, learning to use technology responsibly now prepares us for the future workplace, where cell phones are often essential tools. Therefore, I urge you to consider this proposal for the benefit of our educational growth. Okay, the prompt that you would see for something like this might be something along the lines of, what is the author's main message in the selection? So author's main message, everybody, I want you to box that word, main message in the selection, in an argumentative text is the author's claim. It's what they are claiming, and they are persuading you to try to believe, okay? So the author is persuading you to believe their claim. Now in 8th grade, it gets a little bit more complicated and you have to understand counterclaims, but we're just going to focus on claim today because we have 6th and 7th graders watching this video as well. Then it says, be sure to include evidence, and all of you know that that is the cite portion of the short constructed response. So what you're going to do is you are going to plan out on your paper the short constructed response, and you should have room, lots of room right down here to do it, okay? So you're going to put your answer, your cite, and your explain, just like that, okay? And what I'm going to do to kind of help you out, since some of you are not with your RLA teachers and maybe you struggle with this, I'm going to give you some sentence starters, okay? You know what, let me do it on the slide so you can see it there. For your answer, I'm not going to tell you how to do this yet, but I am going to tell you that you need to restate the prompt. Use the words from the prompt to start your answer. For the cite, you can always say something like paragraph 3 of the text states, or line 7 of the poem mentions. For this one, there is no paragraph number, so you can just say, the text states. You can do your little thing like that if you want, or you don't have to. And then you can put your quotes, and then you're going to write out your text evidence, okay? For your explain, you could say, this shows, this quote shows, something like that, okay? Of these three, the hardest one I think to teach is the explain, because it's really hard for us as teachers to get the kids to explain how the text evidence proves their answer without being what we call repetitious, right? Repeating and repeating and repeating. Repetition. So we want to not do that. So the way I try to explain it to my kids is, once they have their answer and once they have found their text evidence that proves their answer, I like them to pretend that their text evidence is difficult for a little kid to understand. Maybe they're showing like a little brother or sister or a cousin or something. And then I tell them, read the text evidence out loud and pretend that a little kid comes up to you and says, I don't know what that means. So you have to put it into your own words. So you have to kind of reword what it says in order to make the kid understand. So I want you guys to practice that today. You're going to do your short constructed response on your paper. So if you're doing the video right now, you know your class, and there's multiple ways that you could do this. You could either pause the video and have everybody working on it at a level 0. They could turn and talk and share when they're done after a minute or two. Or if you know your class and they do better with timers, you could have all the students work on the answer for 2 minutes. You could have them work on the cite for 2 minutes, and then you could have them work on the explain for 2 minutes. So set a timer, have them work on it at a level 0, have them share it out so that they can help other people get the answers and learn through each other. But if you're doing that, just make sure you're walking around, and so kids aren't sitting there thinking that they're just going to get the answer when the timer goes up. However you'd like to do it, you can go ahead and do that now. pause the video, and then we can come back and we can talk about what the answer might possibly be. Okay, coming back, this is what I would do. Pretending that I am a student in 7th grade or 6th or 8th taking the STAR test, I would use the words from the prompt. So the author's main message in the selection is that cell phones would be a useful tool in class. Something along those lines. It doesn't have to be worded exactly like that. I'm kind of thinking on the fly here. Let me move my site down a little bit. Come on. There we go. Okay, or not. All right. All right, for the site, I'm going to say the text states and then I'm going to say, with access to educational apps, online research, and instant communication with teachers, we can engage more effectively with the material. And I'm not going to write all of that out on my planning page. I'm just going to do a ... ellipsis, and I'm going to end with the material, which is the last of that sentence. But I know that when I go and I type it on the STAR test, I'm going to type the entire thing. Can't do the ... on the STAR, but you can when you're planning. Okay, and then finally for the explain. This is where I was saying that you try to get the kid, you try to explain it to a child. So if it says, with access to educational apps, online research, and instant communication with teachers, we can engage more effectively with the material. Little kid says, I don't really understand, what does that mean? It means that phones come with a bunch of different tools on them that can help you to learn better, I guess, okay? So this shows that phones have many tools that can help students with their learning. Okay. And then as a writer, you might see that I use tools more than once. That's repetitious. So you would go back there and you would find a synonym for tool and try to change it and make it better. So as long as y'all had something along those lines for your answer site explain, you are going to be okay. Just remember what the prompt is asking you to do. If it's an SCR versus an ECR, always remember that you need to start with your sentence starters, restating the prompt, the text states, this shows, this proves. Your teachers have given you a whole bank of different sentence starters to use. But that's how you write a short constructed response. And yeah, all right. Well, you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Bye.